coffee meetings. This is one of the things that you as a job searcher in Denmark will hear again and again and again. You have to do coffee. And I totally agree. However, it's important to do them right. So I saw a post on LinkedIn from Débora talking about what not to do, like how she was not a fan of coffee meetings. So we're going to have a chat about that today because it's a super important topic in Denmark if you're job searching, and especially if you're an international and coming in and you're not used to this culture, right? So welcome. Débora works as a talent acquisition partner at a startup.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the invite. It was very interesting that you commented on my post and then it turned out to be this conversation today. So I'm very happy to be here. Well, I'm Débora. I originally come from Brazil, but I've been living here in Denmark for 1 year and a half. But my journey with Europe started 4 years ago. Before here, I was living in Malta. It's a very tiny island in the Mediterranean. You know, Italy is kicking an island, and then this island is kicking Malta. So it's a smaller place. But yeah, I work in a startup, a company called Formalize. We are changing the game in the compliance space. And I mostly hire people in product and engineering at the moment. So if you're a software engineer, let's talk. But yeah, basically, I've been working in HR for more than 7 years now, back in Brazil. I was in the Air Force in my country for around 10 years. So it was a little bit of an unusual pathway. But yeah, I was doing HR there and recruitment. It was very different from all the work and culture here. So for me, it's also every day an adaptation of the Danish lifestyle and also the whole flat hierarchy work culture. But it's very nice. It's been amazing so far. I used to say that I am crazy about Denmark. I wasn't born here, but it's like I love this country like I was. And yeah, super, super happy to be here.
Amazing. Thank you for both being in Denmark, but also being here. I want to real quick before I go into my first question, which is going to be, I would love to hear about your own journey to getting your job in Denmark, the job you have now. But I want to, just before we jump into that, also say that in terms of connecting with you, we're going to leave your LinkedIn link in the comment as well, so people can reach out to you if they want to connect with you for sure. But tell us a little bit about what brought you to Denmark, because I think like that story I see people very often connect with. And then it's even more amazing that you're working in talent acquisition, where it's like now we can also get some really nice insights for the job search and for all of the connection and building relationships. But I also really want to hear your story as an international coming to Denmark and seeing the relatable opportunities here.
Of course. So I have to go back a little bit to when I was still in Brazil. So in the Air Force, I had a very stable job because the way that government jobs work in that part of the world is that, okay, you get a government job, you have this for life. At least my job in the Air Force was like that. So I joined when I was 18. I was very young. It was my first job. I graduated there in their university. So it was the only type of world that I knew, but I always enjoyed getting to know other different people and other cultures and learning languages. I spoke English since I was a kid, so I've always had this fire inside of me that I wanted to live abroad and have an experience abroad, but it sounded like something impossible because, yeah, now I have this career, I'm trapped in this job, so what can I do? But then we had COVID, and I think it was a time that everybody could reflect a lot on what exactly do I want for my life, how do I want my journey to be from here, because we had a lot of time at home to think. So I decided that I didn't want to be in that career anymore, as safe as it was. So I started to research and understand how I could start this journey outside of Brazil. My dream in terms of Europe, every time I thought about Europe, was always Northern European countries. And especially when I was a kid, I used to dream about Germany. I don't know why, but it was Germany, Switzerland, those places. But of course, I have some restrictions because I need a visa everywhere I go. So it's not as simple as if I were a EU citizen. So I had to work with possibilities that were more realistic at the time. And then I found out about Malta, this country that has English as an official language. At the time, that was back in 2020 when I started to look for jobs. It was a very good job market. And it was, I'm not going to say easy because it's never easy, but it was less challenging to find a job in that part of the world than here at that point. So I started applying and I started making some connections and understanding how LinkedIn works, because it was not something that I used on my day to day. So it was a total new journey. I had hired a career consultant there to help me as well. So it was very valuable. And I ended up finding a job there as a recruitment specialist, specifically for IT. But mind you that it took me around almost 2 years to land a job. So the first thing that I want to say here is you need to be patient. And I know that this is horrible advice and people get very mad because you don't want to be patient. You want a job. You need a job. You need to pay for your bills. At
This
the
is not
time,
horrible. This is not horrible advice. This is realistic advice. I think
yeah,
this is very, very, I know it sucks. It's annoying to
yeah,
hear, but especially if you're not in the country yet. If you're applying from outside, it's even harder, right? So be patient, do all the groundwork, hire someone. I want to ask you a little bit about that as well, but I just want to jump in and say I think thank you for being honest about that, because it is hard. Like, and it is not like you're competing with people who are here, who can go to interviews in person, who can like all of these things, right? So I think that's a very, very important point. Not that it's impossible, it's not, but be realistic. Yeah.
yes, exactly. Setting expectations from the beginning. And I think that I was very privileged in a sense that I still had my well-paid job that could provide for me. And I don't have a family, like in terms of, I don't have kids. Well, now I have my boyfriend, I have my cats, but it's a different story. But it's much easier to work around and change your life when you don't have kids. So I completely understand different types of situations in different households. But yes, it took me around 2 years to find the job that was my first job in Europe. And also, another very important thing to mention, it was a way, way less qualified job. It was still within HR and administration, business in a way, but it was way less qualified. Oh, but you shouldn't accept something that is less than your experience and at a lower level. But this is not how I view things. Believe we need to start from somewhere. And think about this. When you go to a different country, people don't know you. People have no idea of who you are. You can be great, but you can be a big scammer. And you need to prove yourself a little bit more than people who are locals, especially in smaller countries. Because if you think about Brazil, Brazil is huge. We are 200 million people there. So compared to all European
To
countries.
6 million in Denmark.
Exactly. So that's also patience in a sense of understanding this different culture that you're navigating now, and why networking is so much more important here than it is in a country with 200 million people. So yes,
Interject
yes,
that also when you come from Brazil, from wherever, India, wherever you come from, that very well-known brands and very well-known like companies that would give you extra clout in your home country doesn't necessarily do that here because we don't know them. It's same when you
exactly.
come from some really interesting university where you're like, that's nice, I've never heard of it. So
Hmm.
there's a mind shift change there that needs to be like, okay, so I need to kind of remember that the cloud I've kind of built in my home country might not be worth as much in Denmark. Not that you're not worth as much, you are, but there's just some different things that we'll be looking at.
Exactly, exactly. I see this as a step back so you can give your steps forward in your new life. Because when you move to a different country, you're building your life from scratch, in a sense. So you also need to be patient with yourself in terms of adapting to this new culture and to the new people you're going to meet, and understanding that some things are going to be different and you need to be comfortable with the change. So for me, of course, it was not nice in the beginning to have a lower salary and to have to adapt my needs and my lifestyle to that. Not that I was a big spender before, but I just had to think, okay, here, right now, I cannot go out for food every single weekend. I need to control myself. I need to go to Lidl instead of the fancy supermarket and things like that. So it was a very good exercise for me as well to learn how to live in a more modest way. And yeah, so I spent 1 year in that company. It was a Maltese agency, and it was for me the biggest school that I could have in terms of IT recruitment. I learned everything about different titles, backend engineers, full stack, front-end engineers, programming languages, frameworks, all those things that for some people are just buzzwords and they don't really understand. I had a whole 1-year course because when you speak with different people and you recruit for different companies at the same time, you just learn a lot. So it was a nice journey. After that, I moved on to a different company and ended up going to a third company after some years. And that is important because that company brought me here. They have an office. It's not my current company, it's my previous experience, but they have an office here in Denmark, in Copenhagen. And what happened was that I was working based in Malta, and one day we had an event here in Copenhagen, a conference, and I was invited to come here, and it was the first time I was meeting, at the time, my manager in person. And that's why another very important advice that I always like to tell people is that you should not be afraid of speaking up, because amazing things can happen when you open your mouth. So we were having a conversation during dinner, having some glasses of wine with the team, and then she playfully mentioned something like, "Oh, so are you enjoying Denmark? It's very cold, right? Would you move here?" And then everybody was saying like, "Oh, no, of course not. I love living in Malta. We have the sea, we have the sun." And then I raised my hand and said, "I want to move here." But I thought she was joking. And then she looked at me and said, "Really? You really want to move here?" I said, "Yeah, I want to move here. I love this place, and I've always thought about living in Northern Europe. I think it's amazing life quality. If you want me here, I will come." She was very surprised, but she was very happy because she had been trying to bring someone to Copenhagen office for so long, and I was the first person who said yes. So at that point, we just agreed on a date on that day, and we talked about visa and everything during the dinner, having some wine. And then when I went back to my hotel room, I thought, wow, I haven't spoken to my boyfriend. He doesn't even know that we're moving. Let me call him. So I video call him very quickly, and I asked him, so my manager, she invited me to work from the Danish office. Do you want to move to Copenhagen? And my boyfriend, he's from Stockholm. So I was like, yeah, sure, let's do it. Because for him, it's like coming back home,
Closer to home, yeah.
Yeah, but poor guy, he was running away from the cold, going to the sun, and I brought him back to the darkness. But he's very happy now here, and
I think there's two very important things here, and you mentioned one of them. One of them is the communication, like especially if you are in a company, but in general, communication, that's also what we're going to talk about when we dive into the coffee meeting part of this. But the communication is so super, super important. The other thing, and this is actually a strategy that I also encourage people to have, because like we were talking about before, that it is a long-term strategy you want to have, because it might take years to land a job, but internal transfer can actually be a really good path here. So when you're looking for jobs, think about, are there any companies that have sister or daughter companies or whatever departments in your home country where you're at right now, where you could maybe instead apply for a job, and it's probably easier for you to get the job locally. And then after a year or so, depending on the company, have the opportunity to transfer to Denmark. And you can always keep applying on the side while you have that job, but it just gives you an extra chance to actually relocate, right?
Yeah, 100%. And I even have some other examples of people in my previous company who had this pathway of relocating here, and lots of people who relocated to their office in Spain. So if you work for a company locally and you have the chance to prove yourself, and this is something that I'm going to repeat quite a lot here, because as internationals, we have to prove ourselves. And I'm not saying this in a way to not valuing the internationals, but just as we were speaking before, they don't know us, so we need to show what we are capable of doing that we used to do in our home countries. So in that sense, after you work with them for a while, you prove yourself, okay, you can handle that, you're good, then you can move to another place. But it also, of course, it needs to make sense. So for me, at that time, for example, it wouldn't make sense to move to Valencia because I had no team members based there. So why? Just because I want to, it wouldn't make much sense. But here in Denmark, I had team members, I had some hiring managers, stakeholders. It would be very justifiable for me to be here. So it was easier. And these are some things that you need to consider as well when you request an internal move. But don't be afraid to do that. But I think in any type of communication, and when we dive in about the coffee meetings, because this is my whole point, you need to do everything with intention and with the strategy behind you. It's not just saying, oh, I want to move to Denmark. Yeah, nice. And I want to go to, I don't know, the Maldives right now. Nice. Not necessarily you're going to get what you want, right?
But okay, so I totally get that. That makes a lot of sense. If we're just before we dive into the coffee meetings, what's been because you came here with a job, so you're like already kind of set, right? What has been the hardest part for you about moving to Denmark and kind of integrating into the country?
So I think for me, the most challenging part so far was when I felt that I wanted to change jobs. And now I'm in a different company than the one that I was before. But I had this misconception, and especially seeing lots of different comments from internationals and lots of people saying different things. Oh, it's so hard to find a job in Denmark being an international. It's so impossible to find a job without speaking Danish. Oh, it was easy for you, because people love to say that about the others' journeys, right? Oh, it was easy for you because you came here with a job, but you're going to see if you need to find another job. So I was terrified even to look at vacancies. So I think the worst or most difficult part was for me to trust myself and have this self-confidence that I can do it, I can try. It might not be easy, but I have the tools and I have the experience and I can prove myself once again. They can choose me. That was very hard. And of course, very cliche, but the language is very hard. Yeah. And
It is. And go back and watch the interview I did with Brad. It just came out today, actually. But not when you watch this. But in terms of language, we're talking a lot about language in that episode. So it was more like other people's expectation and what other people said. But what did you actually experience in terms of the job search? Because no, let me ask you that first, because then I can tell you what I experienced afterwards. So what was your experience when you then kind of said, I'm going to go and I'm going to just like do it and start applying, start looking? What was the experience then?
I think for me, it was kind of, I wouldn't say cheating, but it was maybe easier than for the rest of people because I work in this market. So I have thousands of connections and I know a lot of people and I know how the process works. So kind of cracking the code in that sense. I knew exactly which companies I could apply and I would have more chances to be accepted. So I was very strategic when I was applying and I applied for very few companies. I think I applied like 5 companies and I landed a job. But I think strategy and this whole network that I've been building for years was key. And of course, understanding where I'm needed and not being afraid of speaking up. So after applying, sending a message to the recruiter, connecting with her, now she's my colleague, and just explain, and not just like a blunt message, hi, but explaining that I had already applied and asking a question about the role and engaging in a conversation. And also, I think because when people who hire, they go to my profile, they see that I post a lot. I'm very active. I'm always there, like making connections, talking to people. And that is very interesting for a talent acquisition partner. You need to be active. But if I go to an HR person's profile and I see that it's very empty, they never post anything, they just like posts and comment something. Why? Like, how are you going to make these connections and build networks for my company if you don't do this for yourself? So I think 80% of my success, if I can call this way, was my personal brand. But I've been working on that for more than 4 years since I decided that I want to live abroad.
Right. So other people do that as well. So it's just about figuring out how to apply that to the job search part. And the other thing that I very, very much agree on is the longevity of building the network. And that's what it's all about. It's about building the network when you don't use it. It's about adding value when you don't necessarily need to, because that is what's going to become so freaking valuable when you do need it. And with that, let's jump into the coffee meeting part of this, because I always say coffee meetings. So let's say I'm one of those, I think you said something along the lines of one of those annoying career consultants who keep pushing coffee meetings, and I was like, yeah, that's me. But that was what made I was like, hell no, you're not. Uh-uh. And then I read your post, and then I was like, it makes sense. So I'm not that annoying. So can you take us through real quick what you actually wrote in the post? Because I thought that it warranted this interview, and it's such an important point when we're talking about coffee meetings, and maybe even start by saying what is a coffee meeting to you, because there's also, in my book at least, a difference between a coffee meeting and an informal interview, for example. So let's talk about what is a coffee meeting.
Of course. First of all, I'm very proud of my copywriting skills that you immediately took the bait, and then you saw that in the end, I wasn't disagreeing with you. So that's basically what I do whenever I post something on LinkedIn that I know that is an important topic for job seekers. You need to get people's attention so they read what you're saying. So first you make them like, what? And then they understand what you want to say.
You're absolutely right. It's about catching the attention with a great hook. And you caught mine. For sure.
Yeah, actually, I got a lot of job seekers commenting on the post, but some people who have jobs, and yeah, it was kind of mixed. But what I want to say is basically, I don't really do coffee meetings the way that people think coffee meetings should be, especially for my profile. Because if you work in recruitment, and mind you, I receive a lot of messages every single day from job seekers. The invite for a coffee meeting will basically be, I would appreciate any advice that you have on my profile or on how I can find a job in Denmark, or if you can give me some suggestions for my CV. And I get that. I understand that when we're looking for a job, we want a job. So we try to get help from every single person that we find. And sometimes we go to recruiter's profile. Oh, she sounds kind of cool. So let me see if she can help me with that. But one little thing that people don't realize is, as anyone else, my time is limited. I work at least 9 to 5, and then after that, I need to study Danish. I need to spend time with my partner. I need to feed my cats. So I need to be very selective with how I spend my free time after work. And for the person on the other side, let's say a project manager contacts me for a coffee meeting with that exact message. For that project manager, it will be a coffee meeting with valuable insights that he or she didn't know before. For me, it will be at least 1 to 3 hours of extra work, because I'll be talking about the same thing that I talk on my day-to-day, and I will see myself, if I accept every single invite, working for free a lot after hours.
Usually say there are 3 types of people you should not ask for coffee meetings. HR people, unless you're applying for jobs within HR, unless that is your area of competence, right? Actively hiring managers, because that seems like you're kind of cheating your way in front for an interview. And career consultants like myself, who are actually, that's what we're selling, right? Our advice is what we're selling. So those 3 types of people, they're not the people you want to do coffee meetings with. They're also usually not the people you can get the right information from at that time.
Yes, I agree. And when I wrote that post, I got pushback from someone saying, but it's not transactional, because when you go for a coffee meeting, other topics can come up and you're going to have a nice conversation. I know, and that can happen. And it happened to me sometimes that I accepted coffee meetings, and it ended up being okay, but I spent yet a lot of time working for that person. And as much as I would love to help everybody, it is tiring for me as well. It is time consuming. So my post was mainly an invitation for people to start rethinking coffee meetings. Also, looking from the job seeker side, I get a lot of feedback from my friends who are looking for jobs for a long time, saying that they go for coffee meetings, lots of coffee meetings, and in the end, nothing happens. So how are they approaching those people, and which people are they approaching? And what's the objective of approaching this person? Because as we were saying, networking is something that lasts, and it's something that you need to build when you are employed, ideally, not when you're looking for something. Because if you are employed, okay, you have this calmness and this peace to build your environment and build the connections for genuine matters, let's say. When you're looking for a job, you need things to be fast. So I wouldn't say it's the best strategy to start building your network only when you need it. So I think about this as well. How, as a job seeker, I go to someone in my area, ask for a coffee meeting. yes, I'm going to get some insights. I'm going to build a network with you, but not necessarily you have a job for me. Like I would say 99% of the times you don't have a job for me, especially because you don't have the power to hire someone. Let's say if you are a project manager in a big company, you don't have the power to hire someone. You can refer that person if you feel like they would be a good fit, but you depend on the HR team, you depend on the hiring managers, on the budget, on the role to exist. So how can you put your, let's say, how can your way in depend on that approach? So I just think it's shifting the approach, rethinking that, and doing the coffee meetings the way they are intended to be. So connecting with professionals in your area, sharing valuable insights with people, even if it's someone outside of your area. But for example, one thing that I like to do, if it's a Brazilian woman asking me for a coffee meeting, even if it has nothing to do with what I do, or even if the person came with the what I would call the wrong approach, asking me for a free CV review, I still sometimes, if I have time, I go for the coffee meeting because that can become a good friendship. I met some incredible people like this, and you have something in common. You're going to talk about the challenges of being a Brazilian woman in Denmark, and you have some references to share, and it can be a very fun conversation. But the thing here is coffee meetings are someone's free time, so it also needs to be fun. I don't want to go for a coffee or a beer to talk about lame stuff with someone. It's just, it doesn't make sense.
Well, and I love this because it is what I have been trying to preach for so long. That this is about, it has to go both ways, right? First of all, networking is a long-term strategy. Like you're saying, it's not something we just do when we're applying for jobs. It's about creating relationships, basically. And the way that we do coffee meetings then is thinking about, okay, so these people are interesting. They could be interesting to build a relationship with. And a relationship doesn't have to be best friends. A relationship can be like not a business relationship. Well, it can be that as well. But I was more thinking of a like industry knowledge kind of thing. Like we're in the same industry, so we can build a relationship based on that, and that's fine. But what you're going for will be like, I'm so curious to learn about you, your industry, because it's much more like you're saying fun when people show up and they're interested in who are you as a person. Like, tell me about yourself. Like, I'm so curious about your journey and why are we here? Like, why did you come here? All of these questions that hopefully the person opposite you will then think, oh, wow, this person is super interested in me as a person, not necessarily just in my title or that open position that's in my team or whatever it is, right? And the benefit that we get from that approach is, one, we build relationships. Two, we also get the industry knowledge. We get the knowledge about a specific company because we're going to get around to those kind of things as well. But it's just not necessarily our main focus. The main focus should be the relationship building, right?
Exactly, exactly. And you're talking about relationship building, and you're talking about being genuinely interested in the person. And I understand, as I was saying, for the job seeker, it's a very stressful period. So one of the comments that I got in that post, for example, was, okay, but I'm out of a job. I don't have anything to give to that person. I don't have anything interesting to share. And this is totally wrong.
Yes, it is totally wrong.
You can be a very cool person. For example, one of the best friendships that I made here in Denmark was a girl. She's also from Brazil, and she works in HR. And then she approached me with this coffee meeting idea. And then I saw her profile, and I saw that she was very active in one of the WhatsApp group chats that we have in our Brazilian community. And I thought, okay, I don't drink coffee, and that's true. I don't drink coffee. I don't like it. I said, well, but if you drink beer, we're in Denmark, so probably you do. I would love to have a beer with you if you want. She was like, yeah, that's a great idea. And if you want, my husband, he's also from Brazil. I said, yeah, I'm going to bring my boyfriend as well so the boys can talk and we can talk. Ends up that we had a lot of things in common, especially the boys. Like it's incredible how much they are similar. They're crazy about NFL. And they even traveled together to the US to go for an NFL game, like a boys' trip. It's an amazing friendship that started with the coffee meeting. And she was not working at the time, or she was working something different from her expertise. But still, like, it's not about she needs to give me something professionally or she needs to pay something from me. It's not about that, but it's about being pleasant, being open. And we're all internationals. We are new here. We don't have family nearby, most of us. We don't have friends from before. So why not go in for that meeting thinking, maybe I'm going to make a friend today. Maybe I'm going to chat about, I don't know, cats or music or anything, clothes. You can have a ton of other topics in common with that person. And something that I push for a lot, like, we're people. You don't need to talk about work 100% of the time during your coffee meeting because you're not a robot, and that's not a job interview. You want to get to know that person and you want to be remembered. So the candidates usually that I remember the most and the people I network with are the people who are genuine, the people who are fun, the people who have something interesting to share. So that is the
People where
whole
there's a
purpose.
connection.
Exactly. Something genuine.
I think the point is that like you're saying with Brazilian girl, and like when you have something in common,
Mm-hmm.
then that's the starting point, right? And as I have a lot of often hear that, like, why would I network with other and do coffee meetings with other job seekers? Like, because they know your situation, because there's something relatable there, because you build relationships with people, and it might not be at this event that's like for job seekers. Your next boss might be in this room. Your next colleague might be in this room. They're not right now because they're also looking for jobs, but creating those connections, even with people who are potentially your competition for a specific role right now, can be such a good way of building that network and creating connections and getting that. Most people, when we're talking about networking, we don't get jobs through our network. We get jobs through our network's network because people know us and can recommend us. And that's what we want to build. And I always say when we're job seeking, we have like two tracks. One is that we have a network track and that has to be running all the time. Your train has to be on that track always. Probably on train, that's a bad analogy, but let's go with it. Your train has to be on that networking track all the time. And then you duplicate your train
Yes.
to the other track for the periods of time when you're job searching. Because that's the point, because these two tracks can overlap if you're good at doing the networking part always. I still do coffee meetings. I have 2 coffee meetings tomorrow with people in my network, right? People I already know that I'm just catching up with. Like, how are you guys doing? Following up on each other. Had one yesterday as well. That's also a lot of meetings in 1 week, I have to say. But
Yeah.
it's about figuring out, like, how does this work in a way that it is valuable for you? Because you're absolutely right, by the way, that you become very stressed out. You become very like, everything has to happen right now when you're unemployed, and maybe you have a visa deadline, maybe all these things. And then it's maybe if you have those kind of deadlines, maybe it's a different approach for a period at least, or a different approach to kind of put on top of, like, lay another track with an approach that is a little bit more, I don't want to say desperate, but I'm going to say desperate in lack of another word, or direct is probably a better term here, because then it is more transactional, and for a little bit of time that can be okay, but it should not be the main focus.
Yeah, but here's the thing. If you're out of job and then you are using this direct strategy, you need to go for the network that you've been building this whole time. Because it's not going to work if you want to build a new network all of the blue, because suddenly now you need that. So that's why it's so important to be present, to work on your personal brand, to speak with people, go to networking events, talk to other internationals, talk to other people in general who live here, and open yourself up for that. Because one day, if you need that, we hope you don't get to a desperation point that you need to act super fast. But if you need that, you know enough people, so you can use the strategy that I like to tell people about. Tell everyone you're looking for a job if you're looking for a job. Tell your neighbors, tell your friends' friends, your LinkedIn connections, your everybody. Don't be ashamed of being unemployed, and don't be ashamed of speaking up. But if it works way better if you had built these connections and this network from the beginning, because then people will see you and remember, I know this person from before, and I know they could be potentially a good fit for this role that I saw here and there. Even if it's not a role in your company, maybe there's someone browsing on LinkedIn. This role could be nice for you. That's how I found my first job, actually.
Even that, it's like they know who you are, so they can recommend you. Like, if they don't know who you are and what you do, then all you're getting is people who are sending you job posts that are probably not relevant anyways, and that's like, I don't quite know. You're creating ambassadors for yourself in this way, right? When you build those relationships, they're going to be the people who are going to go out and recommend you everywhere they know, for like where they can help you out, right?
Exactly.
If you were to let's try and build a strategy. Let's say that we are job seekers. Now, we are maybe a little bit desperate, and like, I really want to have a job yesterday. And by the way, I was unemployed for 2 years when I graduated, and I was very much in that same boat. I was like, I don't need to network because I'm going to have a new job within the next 3 months. It's not going to be an issue. I wish that I had networked even when I studied.
Yeah.
But let's make a strategy. What would be your go-to kind of thing to start out with?
So let's consider that I haven't worked on my personal brand at all. I would start improving my personal brand yesterday.
Okay,
My LinkedIn profile.
let's define personal brand.
Yeah. For, let's say, majority of people, LinkedIn profile is the very basic here, not just in Denmark, but in Europe in general. Because I know in some other countries, there are other job portals and job boards that work well. But I would say here, LinkedIn is the best. So if I'm not active, I would become active right now. Start posting, commenting, reaching people, making
Start with
connections.
building out your profile.
Exactly. With the right keywords so recruiters can find you and etc. Then I would attend networking events. Sounds kind of silly for some people. Why am I going to go there just like look at strangers and hear a random talk about blah, blah, blah. But it's not random. It can be so insightful. And there are people who actually go there voluntarily and they talk about something that can be very valuable for you. So, for example, I went to one event that the main topic was how to bring your how to elevate your LinkedIn brand. There was another one about how to make meaningful connections as an international without knowing the language, etc. So there's always something that you can use that will be nice for you. And if it's not going to give you a job, it's going to give you some personal enrichment and growth. And I would start connecting with people that I meet on those events. The other thing that is very important is to know the market that you are in, to know the companies that you're most likely capable of getting a job in. So if I know that I'm an international, I have a basic level of Danish, and the job is requiring Danish, I think I have all the skills for the job. I would, for example, ask the recruiter, send a message, is Danish a mandatory requirement, or is it a good to have, nice to have kind of requirement? Yes, not everybody will reply to you, unfortunately. Some people just ghost you. But if the person replies, you get to know instantly if that would be a good job for you or not, and then you don't waste your time. I would absolutely not apply for every single thing because I know we're desperate, we want to get there, but this is not a strategy that works. And you're just asking
over quantity.
Exactly. When you apply for like 100 jobs in a day, you're just asking for trouble with mixing cover letters and sending like a wrong message to the wrong people. And
work in Denmark.
No.
It just doesn't. There are very few industries. Actually, IT might be one of them where you can be a little bit less specific when you apply. But in Denmark in general, you really want to motivate each and every CV and cover letter to the specific position and company.
Exactly. So yes, it is a lot of work, I know, but it's something that you need to do in order to find a job here, because the companies also, they want to know why you want to work for them and why you're motivated with the opportunity. And for example, I remember in my previous job, because here I do only IT, but there I was hiring for content positions as well. So marketing, copywriting. And I remember hiring managers, when they saw like any type of English mistakes in the cover letters or CVs, they would instantly eliminate the candidate. Like if they cannot revise their CVs, they're not good for the job. And I don't agree with that. I think this is too much. But I've seen that so often that I would advise people to be very careful and very, very detail oriented when they're building their CVs, their cover letters. Just make sure that everything is exactly the way you would like that to be.
A small trick for that: read your own material out loud to yourself. Because sometimes there's just something that it makes sense in our head, but then when it's mentioned out loud, it's like, and this can be like just a mistake from hitting the wrong key, or like where where both things make a word in English or in Danish, but so the kind of spelling doesn't catch the mistake, right? So just like mentioning or speaking it out loud was what I want to say, can really be a huge help on that.
Exactly. And if you have someone to proofread it for you, if you have your boyfriend, girlfriend, your friends, ask for help. And I think this is also very important advice. Ask for help. Don't be shy. Don't be thinking, oh, but my family and friends, it's not their problem, it's my problem. No, everybody's together. Everybody's there to help each other. And you can't ask for help. You don't need to be a Superman or a Superwoman and figure out everything by yourself. You can reach out for help. I think also to accept that some things are the way they are in the market. So, for example, this that I mentioned, that some hiring managers are very annoying in that sense. The fact that you need to network in Denmark, because I see a lot of people complaining about this style and saying that, oh, it's so unfair that people get jobs through referrals and not through applying. Again, not completely true, because I got a job through applying, and I know lots of people who did, and I hire a lot of people who apply for my jobs. But at the same time, if you know that this is a reality, try to make it work in your favor instead of sitting in your house and just complaining and saying, oh, but you only get a job if you're referred. And then you just do like this and you wait for things to happen. You know what I mean?
And my past 2 jobs has also been through like normal applications, didn't know anyone, didn't have any referrals. However, I do want to say that you're absolutely right. It's like, don't just sit and complain. It doesn't help anyone. But also that one thing is that people get jobs through referrals, but even for jobs that are posted, the referral can help you. So meaning
Yes.
that when you apply for a job, if you have someone who recommends you, you might not get the job, but I promise you, you're ahead on points when the CV or cover letter is being read through the first time around. So you have a bigger chance getting the interview if someone recommended you. When you're at the interview, you're also ahead on points compared to the other candidates because someone recommended you. You can still lose based on team fit, based on anything, basically. But if you have that connection and have that recommendation, even for posted positions, you're better off.
Yes. And another thing that very often job seekers ignore because they think it's BS, when a recruiter says, let's keep in touch for future positions, at least I can speak for myself. I do keep in touch. So I've had cases previously of hiring someone who was a runner-up for a position. And at the time, there was someone who was slightly better. But then 2 years later, a new position opened that would be a perfect fit for that person. I did remember them, and I did ask if they were interested in a talk and to see how it would work. And she's hired. She's working in my previous company now. So I cannot speak about everybody, but at least for me, I love to connect with candidates, even if it doesn't work out. If the person reached let's say, a later stage in the process, I will offer them a call for feedback and some advice and etc. As far as I can go, of course, because there are lots of things in that feedback topic. But I will connect with this person on LinkedIn. And if something comes up that I think that would be a good fit for the person, I will speak with the hiring manager. Oh, do you remember that candidate so-and-so? And that can actually happen. So don't ignore the recruiter or talent acquisition partner after the process if you weren't successful. I know that we feel sad and we feel disappointed and we don't want to see that person anymore and all the feelings that come to you after rejection, but try to keep it professional and don't take it personally in a way, because very often it's not your fault. Let's put it this way. It's more like there was someone else who was more qualified than you for that specific position. But it doesn't mean that you are not qualified. Don't take it personally and keep connected with people. Don't reject the person who rejected you.
I agree. That is such good advice. Also, because in general, you might also know someone who could be interested. You might all of a sudden have someone in your network who's looking for that specific profile, and you're like, oh, now I can help both parties here because you've connected with that person on LinkedIn and like, so I think this is really great advice. I always recommend people to reach out and connect. I usually actually recommend to do it after the interview process, but it kind of depends on your approach. I want to also give you the room because we're almost out of time here. Is there anything, before I ask you if there's anything else we haven't talked about, I just want to say that doing volunteer work, like signing up for Tech Barbecue, for Roskilde Festival, for whatever, all of these different places where you can volunteer. One, that gives you skills, new competences, but it also gives you network. So this could be a great way to connect with people. And something like Tech Barbecue, for example, where there's so many companies there as well, that is a great way to reach out and connect with people who could be interested in coffee meetings as well.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's a great way to just put your face out there. As I also spoke about in another post, if you're looking for a job, get out of the house. I know that it's cold and it's wet right now.
It's snowing.
Put a jacket on. Yeah, it's magical. Get out of the house, meet people. There's a networking event. Go for it and just speak with people. Because from speaking with people, something good will happen. If you stay at home, you're going to chill, you're going to watch some Netflix, but you're not going to reach your goal. So the best thing you can do is get out of the house.
Yeah. And remember that if you're more introverted, then still get out of the house and network, but do it in a way that agrees with your energy level and your way of interacting with people. Maybe choose a smaller event, maybe choose something where you can kind of look at who you want to talk to before the event starts, whatever it is. But I totally agree. Do get out and network because it's so important in Denmark. Yeah. Is there anything else, like this advice I really want people to get as well? Anything that we haven't spoken about that you really want to give to the viewer or listener?
So I think we spoke about mostly everything, especially related to coffee meetings. But the most important thing is to be genuine. So one thing that I like a lot is, I'm very active on LinkedIn. I post a lot. And I love when people, they comment on my posts, but it's not like just praising what I wrote or, oh, great insights. No, but I like to see what people actually think and get their opinions. And if you have a different view, and let's discuss. And I love to see those different takes. So that can be a very good way to network, even with recruiters, because you're going to be helping them, giving them engagement. And at the same time, you're going to be presenting your opinions and sharing some knowledge. And very interesting conversations can happen after that. You can go to the DMs, and then after DMs, you can have a coffee meeting with that person because you established a relationship. You started something genuine there. You're interested in what they write. So my biggest advice, that would be not to make it transactional. It's the main thing here, is to make it genuine, to make it honest, to show people why you're interested in what they say, why you like what they say. And on that topic, because I said before that I would love to be able to help everybody, but I just don't have time. It's not like I don't like to give advice to people. So I thought that it would be very nice to bring lots of people together, hopefully, and be able to share some advice and also to spark some nice conversations between other job seekers or other people who are employed in different industries. So I'm currently planning some networking events. I know it's not like something revolutionary, but I want to do this in a very fun way where people can actually feel comfortable, have a beer or tea or whatever they want to drink, have a good chat, have a laugh, talking about being an international, about being a new professional in Denmark, any topic that they want to talk. But I also want to share some insights with people and be able to help in some way. And I think bringing people together will be a good idea. So if you want to follow me on LinkedIn, I'm going to give some more details about that.
It's going to be amazing. I look so much forward to another opportunity, because I really also think if people look at LinkedIn, there are quite a lot of people helping out in the industry in Denmark to provide networking opportunities and to provide lots of great information as well. And like you were saying in the beginning, you chose to reach out and connect with a career consultant. I think that is a very, very good idea as well. Like,
Hmm.
I'm not biased at all on that. No, but the thing is that when you want to move to another country, or even if you're already in Denmark, having someone who knows what it's like to be in Denmark and who
Hmm.
knows the difference between Denmark, or not maybe the difference between Denmark and other countries, but just knows how Denmark works, and
Hmm.
not having a career consultant that's based in London or Berlin or something, because it has to be someone who actually knows how things work in Denmark, right?
Exactly.
So yeah, thank you so much for this. I think this is amazing. And as I said in the beginning, I'll share your LinkedIn in the comments. It's been really interesting. And I love that we basically do agree that coffee
Yeah.
meetings are a good thing. It's just about how to do the strategy around them. And that is so, so important. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. It was very nice to talk to you. I had a lot of fun.
Me too.